You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages of the newspapers as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the broadcaster and commentator Alex Andreou and barrister and former government minister Anna Soubry. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. The Metro leads on the joint investigation by The Times and Channel 4 dispatches, in which 4 women accuse Russell Brand of sexual assaults between 2006 and 2013. He denies all the allegations. That's also on the front of The Eye, which reports on the growing pressure facing media bosses. The Sun reports on the BBC, saying it's urgently looking into the issues raised. And The Mirror, their headline, "What did TV chiefs know?" The FT reports on Sir Keir Starmer promising to seek a major rewrite of Britain's Brexit deal in 2025 if Labour wins the next general election. The Guardian reports that Labour's biggest union backer, Unite, is launching grassroots campaigns in red wall constituencies demanding more radical policies on jobs and the climate. And the Star reports on the remnants of Hurricane Lee being set to move across the UK between Tuesday and Thursday. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by the broadcaster and commentator Alex Andreou and barrister and former government minister Anna Soubry. Welcome to both of you. Good to see you in the studio. Let's start with the Metro front page, shall we? And the headline there, Brand, what did TV bosses know? Just a caveat going into this story. We're not going to talk about the detail of the allegations, but suffice to say that Russell Brand has denied all wrongdoing. Alex?
I mean, the aspect of this that I find most interesting is what it says about polarisation and tribalism in the country, because as the allegations began to tumble out, you found people who were automatically on Russell Brand's side, having seen none of the details, and people who were automatically not on Russell Brand's side. And I find that quite interesting, that we pick our tribe. You know, it's true for Trump, it's true for people like Johnson, it's true for Corbyn, it's true for Andrew Tate, it's true for so many people, that their following will reject out of hand any allegation of wrongdoing because they are messiahs. You know, they're either saints or sinners. There's nothing in between. I find that aspect of it quite interesting.
And let's broaden it out in terms of the workplace and when allegations of this sort are made and the culture.
Look, there's going to be a lot of fallout from this, and it isn't just about him. I think there will be a lot of people, and I'm certainly one of them, and that's what a number of the papers are now getting into, that are saying, well, it's not just the headline is, you know, what did TV bosses know? But the real question, I think, is this: is that can we be confident that now in 2023 that just because you are a big star, and, you know, people are going to be chasing those big stars because big stars get ratings and ratings reported, but that you will still be expected to behave just like any other employee. You will not get special favours and you will not be allowed to behave in ways that are absolutely unacceptable just because you're a big star. And that's what a number of the papers are now getting into. And I say the headline is, what did they know? But it is that much wider question about, you know, is that sort of star cult thing now going to be, you know, and see people for the fact that they are all employees, however big a star you are, and you have a duty to everybody else who has to work with that person, whatever their peculiarities may or may not be.
It's about a duty of care to all employees.
It is.
Absolutely, and that's the repeated pattern that we see. Whether there is anything to these allegations or not, we have now seen a number of cases in the past where basically allowances were made for the big star. And I'm not sure that culture is improving. I don't feel like enough has been done to say this is not how to do business anymore.
Yeah.
The reputational risk is huge. So I don't understand, even from a business point of view, like from a corporate point of view, what these companies are doing. If this were in America, where things can be a bit more litigious, this would turn into a huge class action suit. So
let's move on, shall we, to another story on the front of the Financial Times. And Anna, this story basically about what Sir Keir Starmer would do if he were to be heading the next government in terms of the Brexit deal. Plans to, I'm not necessarily sure the headline is accurate, rewrite the whole deal, but certainly refine it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, actually. It isn't rewriting the Brexit deal. What he's talking about is actually refining it to make it, in his words, to make it work. And he directly speaks about his own children. He says, I've got a 15-year-old boy, I've got a 12-year-old girl. And he's framing this by saying it's about our children and our grandchildren's future. I mean, I think this is all to be hugely welcomed because, first of all, politicians are now actually talking about Brexit in a more responsible and honest way. Secondly, I think that if Labour win, then there's a good chance that some of the appalling features of Johnson's deal, which they voted for, by the way, but that they will be unpicked and that will be to the betterment, largely of British industry. But there'll be other things that I think they'll do as well. The thing that disturbs me is that he still feels the need to say, you know, we can make Brexit work, where even when I try to be as completely objective as I possibly can be, given my views, obviously, on Brexit, you can't make it work because it's rubbish, guys. But this is a big step forward because it shows he can say this and not be terrified. That's what has blighted Labour, is that they didn't dare say this stuff.
He actually is saying it has to work.
Yeah. Well, it has to work because, as a Greek, let me put the European perspective into this. There is still an Anglocentrism to all of this that thinks that all the UK needs to do is say we'd like to rejoin, and the EU will go, oh, we've missed you so much. That's not how it works. Trust needs to be rebuilt, and I think Starmer recognises that, and that's why this is to be welcomed. But the other thing that is important to say is that there is a review built into the agreement for 2025. So whatever government is elected will be called to review what bits of the trade deal are working and what could be better. So Starmer is showing a willingness to go further, I think, than Sunak is. But Sunak has been doing bits and bobs of repair work, Horizon, keeping the kite mark, deferring the controls for imports for a fifth time. So, but, you know, it's good that we're moving into a space of recognising there's been damage. We may disagree about the quantum of damage, but it's there and we need to do stuff to fix it.
But I take your point about Europe's view and not this Anglo... biased view that we're given. And this line says, many in Brussels see the 2025 review as simply a tidying up exercise. So just how much could be refined and changed remains to be seen.
Quite.
Let us have a look at The Guardian, staying with politics. And this is Unite, their thoughts, one of Labour's biggest backers. And they're now saying that they're wanting to push Labour into using more of the funds to look at policies on energy, steel and environmental issues and green jobs. And that's where they believe the focus should be. And they want to gently, maybe not perhaps so gently, push Labour in that direction. Alex?
I think this is, where Anne and I part ways, in that I think this is hugely to be welcomed, actually. I think it's quite dysfunctional, especially as Labour gets closer and closer to government, for them to be in bed with major unions. A distance needs to begin to emerge because the time will come when they will be the employer and the union will be on the other side of the table. And
but
you can't have a healthy conversation.
Their roots are in the union. That's where the Labour Party came from.
But listen, it doesn't have to be a confrontational relationship. It can be a cooperative relationship. It can be an amicable relationship. But it's a relationship that will be, we'd like X%, and Labour will say, we can give you Y%.
No.
The added layer, I think, when they're dealing with a Tory government is that there's always a subtext of, we would like to also destroy each other.
Look, maybe I've read this wrongly, but I see this as being the sort of pain in the backside that Labour and Starmer just don't need. He's making all this progress. You know, there he is over in Canada, meeting President Trudeau, being the statesman, going off to see Macron, talking sensibly about the EU, getting some sensible policies out on immigration. And then we have Unite's leader, Sharon Graham, not exactly known as a Starmer fan, who has been publicly critical of Keir Starmer, said funding earmarked for Labour would instead be funnelled into stoking public pressure for the party to shift its policies. And then she names a couple of key areas. So I think this is hugely come on, guys.
I get it.
I feel like saying, grow up, get behind
I get what you're saying, but Sharon Graham's job is not to agree with Keir Starmer. It's to represent the members of Unite.
Yeah, but I don't think that is representing the members of Unite. That's about her representing her narrow political take on things.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I think Unite are right to be pushing for Labour to go further. And the problem is that the whole political landscape has shifted so far to the right that without anything anchor it and pulling it a little bit to the left, it will just drift to one right-wing party and one centre-right party.
But the unions do have a significant voice, don't they, especially financially, because the affiliation fees to Labour is almost 1.1 million in 2023 so far.
Yeah, they're affiliated to the Labour Party, so they still make a contribution, but not on the scale of the other unions. Because they aren't, they're more paid up and into Labour. I don't have a lot of time for you.
And reports are that there's now much more money pouring into Labour coffers from business. And I guess that's what the unions are, that's why they're flexing their muscle a little bit to say, remember that we are still your major financial contributor.
And is it reasonable, though, for Unite to call for Labour to allocate some of its £28 billion a year of green investment funds to developing the steel industry in that direction and, a promise that British Steel will be involved in the future, heavily involved?
Steel is... I used to be a business minister, and, of course, it was during the steel crisis. So I'm desperately remembering what a torrid time it was, and it's very, very difficult because you've got to have a steel industry. Every developed country can produce its own steel. It's absolutely critical, but it is also a huge problem when it comes to if you care about the world and we care about our climate, as we all do, then you don't want great big blast furnaces that eat up carbon, basically. But greening it will take a lot of money, huge investment, and it could also lead to job losses, which is exactly what you're seeing in Port Talbot with the deal that's been done with Tata.
Yes, yeah. We're going to leave it there for the moment and take a break. Anna and Alex, thank you for the minute. Coming up, more of the stories making tomorrow's front pages, including this in the Eye. They say cash-strapped councils are planning a big rise in council tax. Stay with us for more on that and other stories.
But it was also...
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me now, broadcaster and commentator Alex Andreou and barrister and former government minister Anna Soubry. It's fine to talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry,
you weren't called out. I won't tell you off. We're going to go straight into the papers and start off with the Financial Times. It's a very small article in the Financial Times, but a huge story. And this is HS2. Their headline: plans derailed again. What on earth is happening? We've got Conservatives saying today that the whole plan should be scrapped entirely because too much money has been spent, haven't got anywhere, and rather than pumping more money into it, just kill it now.
And what's happened is that Pat McFadden, who is a hugely important, he's a Member of Parliament, hugely important now in Starmer's election campaign, was interviewed today, and what he said, and this is the story in the FT, is that Labour are not prepared to give a commitment that they'll take it further than Birmingham. I'm a huge fan of HS2. I am profoundly hacked off that it was being curtailed in the way that it had. So the eastern leg, which was going to come to my old constituency of Broxtowe and to Towton, and then go onwards via Sheffield to Leeds, that was axed. And now they're saying it will never go beyond Birmingham. It won't even get up to Manchester. And then at the other end, it won't even come into London, into Euston. Yes. It will stop at Common somewhere. Yeah. I think the whole thing is outrageous because if you were serious about growth, you've got to be serious about infrastructure. And HS2 is absolutely the sort of infrastructure that we have to build if we're going to be a modern, successful, developed country, frankly.
Why are we so bad at big projects? Oh. I mean, it's extraordinary, right? Every other European country has stretches and stretches of high-speed rail network. Absolutely. And I think it's a delay. I think things get snagged because land acquisition is so expensive and so timely. Things get snagged, then the cost goes up because obviously with inflation, the way it's been running the last 2 years, any contractor will say, well, we can't do HS2 for the price we agreed 3 years ago, right? And so the project gets smaller. It's shrinkflation. It's the rail equivalent of shrinkflation.
One of the great projects in my lifetime, like the Channel Tunnel is the classic, because I'm obviously old enough to remember
That's HS1, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Did you know that?
But it was always a huge controversy about it. And now you can't imagine that we wouldn't have it. And the Elizabeth line is exactly the same. So, you know, the bucks should be found. It will be worth every penny.
So we just have to bite the bullet and continue, according to you. Let's have a look at the Metro. Another little story tucked away in the left-hand corner of the paper. This is on page 4. And apparently women are less likely to receive CPR in public. Do we have a reason as to why this might be the case, Alex?
Well, they say it's for all sorts of reasons. People are, they think women are less likely to be having a heart attack, so they just don't perceive it as one, or they're worried about hurting them because they're, I guess, smaller in terms of frame, or they're worried about touching them inappropriately. And so there is the darkest possible joke to be made there, considering the other stories we've been talking about today, that the only time a man will not touch a woman without consent seems to be when she's having a heart attack in public. I mean, that is the one circumstance where if you can help and do CPR, you absolutely must. You mustn't worry about a lawsuit or about, you know...
No, it'll be these men saying, oh, what's wrong with her? It's, you know, wrong time of the month, or she's having a hot flush.
Well, I mean...
It is shocking.
You say that, but there was a whole book about how women's health concerns are dismissed by doctors.
I think it's much more likely, the fact that you don't expect women to have heart attacks, and actually women do have heart attacks.
Yes.
And it's actually quite a problem.
I think you're right on that. But 28% less likely than men, that's quite a high stat.
That is
Anna
extraordinary.
and Alex, thank you very much.